A knight is sworn to valor.
A knight is sworn to valor.
His heart knows only virtue.
His heart knows only virtue.
His blade defends the helpless.
His blade defends the helpless.
His might upholds the weak.
His might upholds the weak.
His word speaks only truth.
His word speaks only truth.
His wrath undoes the wicked.
His wrath undoes the wicked.
Thus is the knight's code, Butler.
Awesome.
We're doing DragonHeart.
Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this is Forgotten Cinema. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, might have been forgotten by audiences. Whether it be a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the film simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the movie, or maybe don't love about it, but we always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy Forgotten Cinema, we want to hear from you. We are on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. We have copious amounts of videos. We have a backlog of over 300 episodes that are there for your listening pleasure. What's up?
Oh, no, nothing much. I was training that ward, right? Who was meant to be king. I know nobody likes him.
He would like, yeah, exactly. Dick, like there are about 35 red flags there that everybody ignored.
But I'm trying to teach him the Knight's Code. I'm trying to teach him how to fight. I'm trying to teach him to be better than his warlord father. And we got into a scuffle with some peasants. I didn't want to fight him. King died. Son went after him. Took the crown, got stabbed himself, pushed into barbed wire. You'd think I would teach the kid to fight, but apparently he sucks. Got killed by a girl by accident with a bucket on her head. So we took him to the mom. The mom's all right. Took him to a dragon.
It's Julie Christie. Of course she's all right.
Dragon gave him half the heart, but turned out the kid
for no reason
kind of still a dick. So, we saved an even worse tyrant. I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I left to go fight dragons, because I vowed to destroy them all. After that dragon turned that kid into a dick.
And you only killed one.
You only see me kill one, but apparently I've killed a bunch. But now I'm friends with that dragon. And we just go around ripping people off.
Yeah, grifting for about 15 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, you don't know how long they were grifting.
All right, that's right. We are doing, is it 96? Am I right? Is that right? Yes, 1996 film DragonHeart. This will be interesting because I know this is in the time frame of young Butler, who was impressionable, and
I already know
slightly older Field, who when we put in the movie was on the list, I was like, okay, I remember that a little bit. I remember some of it, and then I'm watching it going, why are all my notes? No. I feel like I'm going to break a lot of hearts and anger some people here, but
I figured
that's what it's all about, right? So DragonHeart has a runtime of 103 minutes. It's rated PG-13. Production budget was $57 million. It came out on May 31st, 1996, which is obviously a big time summer release. The beginning of the summer. Opening weekend, it did $15 million. Domestic, 51. Its international total is 64 for a worldwide total of $115 million.
Wow, we got an international total on a movie from the 90s for once, finally.
I know, right?
Wow.
I guess it was really popular. Well, it also has a lot of Scottish and British actors. Shot in Slovakia, so maybe that's part of the reason. Production company and distributor are the same. It's Universal Pictures. So I said it came out on the 31st. Let's go back to the 24th, but actually let's go back to the 22nd, May 22nd, 1996. Mike, what came out that day?
Was that Mission Impossible?
It is Mission Impossible.
Red light. Green light.
Dun, 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 dun. I don't know. That's a good scene. Anyways, that came out on the Wednesday before that first weekend, the 24th. But on the 24th, you had Spy Hard and you had a limited release of Welcome to the Dollhouse.
What's Spy Hard?
Spy Hard is Leslie Nielsen. It's like this
okay, that's the one I thought it was. Okay.
The 31st, when DragonHeart came out, it went up against Eddie and the Arrival. The Charlie Sheen Arrival, not Arrival that came out probably like 8 years ago. Yeah. You had, and then the week after, June 7th, you had a wide release of The Rock and The Phantom, two popular films. Well, I guess The Rock obviously is one I prefer, but The Phantom I believe was popular.
We did The Phantom.
We did. That's right. You're supposed to step in there. Second season? Third? No, that was five. That was season 5 because it was a
John
audience
Amenda from The
choice.
Pint recommended, and he got mad if we didn't like it.
Something we'll never do again. Audience choice.
But he doesn't like the Shadow, but the Shadow is better than Phantom. I'm sorry.
The Shadow is better than a Phantom. Who's saying it's not?
John, remember?
Yeah, he's wrong. He's wrong.
That's right, John. Don't leave our Patreon.
Directed by Rob Cohen, who's done the original The Fast and the Furious, Stealth, and The Skulls.
He also did Emperor, The Mummy, The Emperor's Tomb, which was a movie.
The third one?
Yeah. A movie so bad that I almost walked out.
Really?
Yeah. That's one of 2 movies at the theater I almost decided to
And the
stop.
first one was, the other one was? You said one of 2 movies. What's the other one?
Oh, Bad Teacher. I think I've said that on the podcast.
Oh, Bad Teacher's not that
I
bad.
hated Bad
Really?
Teacher. Yeah.
Interesting.
And The Heat, but I was stuck at The Heat.
I walked out of the Heat.
You walked out of The Heat and I was stuck with my boss. Who turned out hated it.
To be honest, I didn't like it, but I think I just didn't want to be there. Yeah. You know, when like I'll put a movie on, I'll put a movie on down here. I'm watching it and we're in my basement, obviously. I'll watch the movie. I'll go upstairs to night to Dexter. So I pause it. I come down and I'm just like, I'm done. I don't want I have that. I'm just like, I'm finished with this. Yeah. It's not if the movie's good or bad. It's just, I can't do this right now. I don't want to do this. Anyways, this film has a story credit for Patrick Reed Johnson and Charles Edward Pogue. And then Pogue ended up writing the screenplay. Johnson has done Space Invaders and the movie 5/25/77. Have you seen that?
No.
I went to watch the trailer. I wish I did before we did this. It's clearly about the release of Star Wars,
right.
But he has 2 other scripts that are optioned that are the dates for Empire and Jedi. So he did a sequels to them. I need to watch
sequels
this.
To movies that for a movie that came out.
Well, I think it must take place in the day of. Like, it must be one of those.
I'm wondering how close it is to your.
Oh, I know, right? I thought that too. I mean, I wrote a script called May 19th, 1999, which is about the opening night of Phantom Menace, but it takes place all in the line to wait to get into the theater at like a midnight show, because back then they only did midnights, and it could be a play too. I still want to do that. But yeah, so I'm wondering, but also there's the other one too. There's the one with Dan Fogelman, right?
Where they want to watch the cut of it before.
What's that one called? That's like they're in the van.
Yeah, they fight the Trekkies.
Yeah, I don't remember. So that's very similar to that too. So whatever. Who cares? I don't care.
I just think it's funny. It's also the date of the release.
Yeah. No. Anyways, Pogue has done Psycho 3, The Fly, DOA,
a movie we did on this cast,
and Call the Conqueror,
a movie we did on this cast.
Ooh.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
A cinematographer was David Egby, who's done Pitch Black, the 1979 Mad Max.
Pitch Black is a movie we're doing in 2 episodes.
All right, excellent. I did not know that. I never we pick them, and then I forget that. I don't even know what we're doing next week. I haven't even looked yet. I will when you go, when
I do.
If you watch the show often, when I go, hey, Mike, tell them where they'll find us. That's when I go to the note going, what the hell are we doing next week? So we're not always prepared.
Awesome.
Anyways, he also did Scooby-Doo, the 2002 Scooby-Doo.
I love that movie.
Composer was Randy Edelman, did Last of the Mohegans, Anaconda, and Triple X. Edited by Peter Amundsen, who's done Pacific Rim, Zombieland, and Sky High. Produced by Rafaela De Laurentiis, who's on the 1984 Dune, Prancer, and Conan the Barbarian, which is where your note comes in before we were talking before a show about Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
All right, so Dennis Quaid plays Bowen. He is in Frequency, Inner Space, and The Substance more recently, which you have not seen yet.
I do want to see.
David Thewlis as Einan, who is in Wonder Woman, the Harry Potter series. He plays Lupin, and in the movie Timeline.
A movie we did.
Exactly.
Also takes place medieval times.
Kind of.
He's the one that's obsessed with medieval times, right?
No, that's Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler is.
Yeah, he's the guy that runs the project.
He's the head. He's the head that gets killed at the end.
Pete Postlewaite as Gilbert, The Usual Suspects, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, In the Name of the Father. He was nominated for an Oscar for In the Name of the Father. Postlewaite, he says Gilbert, but he's a friar. He's a priest in this, right? Yeah,
he's a friar.
But they call him monk, right?
He calls him Father Gilbert when he appears.
Yes, yeah. Dina Meyer, who plays Kara, is from Starship Troopers, Saw, and Johnny Mnemonic. Jason Isaacs, a young Jason Isaacs, as Felton. He's also in the Harry Potter series. He plays Draco Malfoy. Lucian Malfoy. Malfoy, Lucius Draco's father. He's also in The Death of Stalin, which I keep telling Butler to watch, The Patriot, and he was in season 3 of The White Lotus for those who watch White Lotus. Brian Thompson is Brock. Brian, if you watch our From Console to Screen series that whether it is out now or it is coming out, he is in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which we talk about him.
Shao Kahn.
I go into a little more depth about Brian Thompson and his acting career in that movie, and that. So you should go watch it because it's pretty fascinating. He's also in The Terminator and Cobra. Julie Christie is Aslan.
And he's the alien bounty hunter in the X-Files.
There you go.
Gotta mention the X-Files.
Julie Christie is Aslan. That's what you're here for. Dr. Zhivago, Don't Look Now. She's been nominated for 4 Oscars and she won for Darling. And then the voice of Draco is Sean Connery, obviously, who is the original James Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And John Gielgud is the voice of King Arthur. If you listened or watched our opening, I was attempting to do that. He's won an Oscar for Arthur, and he's also in the 1974 Murder on the Orient Express. Butler.
Yeah.
This film was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, but it did not win.
Ooh.
Now, I can give you the other 2 nominees because this is a visual effects, so they don't have 5 nominees. They have 3. But I don't want to give you the 3. I think you should know this. What won that year?
1996? Was that The Lost World?
No, it was not The Lost World.
Was that Independence Day?
It was Independence Day. That won for Best Visual Effects. Good job. Other than the biggest note, let's get this out of the way because we're going to talk about this. The biggest note from this, biggest contribution to the movie industry that this movie has is the soundtrack, is the score, is the song that everyone knows because you've heard it in almost a bunch of trailers.
Mm-hmm.
It played in the trailers for Two Brothers, Mulan, the animated Mulan, Anna and the King, The Young Black Stallion, 7 Years in Tibet, and it's also the closing music for the U.S. Olympics, for the U.S. broadcast for the Olympics.
2004.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's still there. I think they still
use it? That's awesome.
The music it
was also one of the in memoriam sections of the Oscars.
Yeah, I was just gonna say these are just examples of where it's in. It's a lot. It's everywhere. That by Randy Edelman, the score is everywhere. So I would say that's its biggest contribution if we're looking for something like that note. But Mike, I kind of gave you a little hint on what I thought of it a little.
Not surprising. I was kind of hoping you would surprise me with your thoughts. But no,
I don't hate it. I don't hate this film.
That's surprising.
But I don't. I feel like the characters in this movie are stupid, or like they're stupid for the sake of plot points. Like I don't like. It is so obvious to me that Einan is not a good dude when he's a kid. He's a spoiled brat.
Right.
It is clear that he is not. He's not going to be a good king. He's going to be a bad king. And the refusal of Bowen to just kind of ignore that.
Well, I mean, you don't want to admit that the person who's kind of like your son that you're teaching is going to turn out bad. You don't want to admit that, especially when it's like kind of your last hope, kind of. And he's still a kid, so there's still kind of.
He's a teenager. He's not a kid. Yeah. He's a teen.
True.
No.
All teenagers are terrible people.
All right. Well, tell me your background with this film in terms of when you first watched it and then now, and if anything, the usual.
Sure. So, I mean, this movie has a very interesting backstory to me because, like, I had always wanted to see this in theaters. You talked about The Arrival and DragonHeart. I had to choose between 2 movies. We were going to see one movie that week. That following week, rather, was going to be DragonHeart or Arrival. I chose DragonHeart, mostly because I was given a tiny mini poster from the Orange Theater.
We did those in the 90s,
right? It's like one of the only mini posters. So I had one that was for DragonHeart. I was really excited.
Well, I wasn't working at Showcase. Orange? Where'd you go?
It was Orange. Yeah, because it was Chris Mitchell who got us the poster, the mini poster.
Where was I in Orange then? I think I was at the Fourplex still. Yeah.
So I was really excited for DragonHeart, and then that weekend, my grandmother came to babysit my brother and I. We were terrible. We got grounded, and my punishment was no DragonHeart, which for me was back then, like I was all about movies. And so not being able to see a movie in the theater was a really harsh punishment for me. So I didn't get to see it until it came out on VHS. We rented it. I really liked it. The score is really great. For a 9-year-old, the dragon's really cool. The story is really cool. And I've watched it a decent amount of times growing up. So I don't know how many times I've seen this movie, but it's probably like half a dozen, maybe.
Okay.
This wasn't a movie I was like, I had to always put in, but I always really liked this movie. I don't think I ever owned it, but anytime it was on HBO or Cinemax or whatever, I'd always watch it. So I have I have fond memories of this film, and I still look upon it fondly. There's still a lot I like. Like it's not bad, but there's certainly not great. It's still certainly like a B movie, like an elevated B movie, I would say. Like I think that's what they're going for the most part. It's kind of family friendly in a way, but it's meant for like the whole family to enjoy, but it's still trying to be a blockbuster, which I find sometimes it's at odds with itself, but it's sometimes I like it. Like I'm not going to probably defend a lot of it, but I probably will still defend a decent amount, depending on what your issues are with the film. I'm surprised you don't hate it, because I was going into this being like, man, I really hope he likes this one, but I really think he's going to hate this.
The only thing I don't hate is the message. I understand the message that they're trying, and I like the score. The score is obviously good, so the score gets high marks for the movie. Gets high marks for the score. I don't want to use the fact that the effects are a little dated to be a negative on the movie, because you know what I mean. It's 30 years old, so it's going to be 30 next year. So that's not fair. But the effects don't hold up, but that's just what it is. It's not it's not,
it's hard to knock it when it's like that. Right. But then you can always go, sometimes I do use this, but like Jurassic Park still holds up. But I think that's like the outlier of. Well,
that's Steven Spielberg. That's how much money.
Much bigger.
Look budget. How much money that went into Jurassic Park when this movie only had $57 million, which probably a lot of it went to the cast. I'm sure Connery wasn't cheap. I'm sure Dennis Quaid's not cheap.
Yeah.
You're also on location. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're Rob Cohen. No offense to him, but you're not Steven Spielberg. So Spielberg's going to get probably the extra stuff. And you know what I mean? So, and he's best friends with George Lucas. They're best buds. I mean, George Lucas is going to make sure that his Steven Spielberg movie hits.
How's my besties movie looking?
Exactly.
Pull from Dragon.
Exactly. Hey man, sorry man, we need more juice to get these dinosaurs. Like, take it from DragonHeart. I know they weren't made at the same time. But I'm just but yeah, so that's just what that is. I laughed when the scene. There was some stuff that made me laugh that shouldn't make me laugh, like the scene when the dragon wants him to pierce his heart. So the dragon turns and he's like, ooh, and he pulls the scales back. And I'm like, what? How easy? Number one, it's really easy to just reveal your insides when you just have to pull a scale back. Okay. But it's just, the way he turns, it was all like, come on, man, hit me. So that made me laugh. And then the whole river folk people that were going to eat the dragon for meat, and then they turn around and they're going to eat them for meat. Right. And I'm like, don't you have pigs? Like what is?
They had a bunch of pigs, which apparently Rob Cohen didn't, no one wanted except for Rob Cohen on set.
I didn't even get that scene. I didn't even understand.
Yeah. You didn't seem like you're starving, and you have enough gold to give him a whole pig head sack of gold.
Yeah. I didn't get that. And so there's just implausible things that happen in this movie for plot purposes. And then the whole Einan thing, his character, aside from him being
pure dag nasty evil.
Yeah. But aside from that, he's a king, but he is so reckless with like what he does. Like he just charges out in front of everything and challenged Bowen to a duel in the middle of the river. Like it's dude.
I think that's how his father was, because his father was more like a warlord.
Sure.
So
okay.
That's what he learned. That bloodlust is there. He's like, he's like a combination of what's his face from Game of Thrones, the kid from Game of Thrones, Joffrey. And
but Joffrey wouldn't stay. But see, Joffrey.
No, he's a coward. Joffrey's
that's what I'm saying.
He's like a combination of Joffrey and the other. He's like a combination of Ramsay and Joffrey.
Right.
Like that's what I pictured him as, like kind of like a melding.
Okay, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't. His haircut's ridiculous. I can't stand his haircut.
He's a goofy looking dude.
Yeah, it's just he's not. There's.
It was hard to believe that he grows up to be able to best Bowen at all, especially since when you apparently like one of the last times he's training him, Bowen can eat and drink while fighting him. Like he was not good.
Yeah. And
all of a sudden he's a great fighter.
He just because his training stops after his dad dies, and that's it.
Because Bowen goes away.
Yeah. And then obviously maybe someone else trained him or Bach or whatever trained him, but they don't show that. So we're supposed to assume that he's not training anymore. And
no, because he says in the river fight, like, oh, you only just trained me to fight. Well, then, but last time I saw, he did a terrible job at it. But yeah, I think Ramsay is Einan is just way too evil. He's a little much.
Mm-hmm.
Or because of his goofy nature, he needs to be a little more secretly a coward.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The whole connection with the dragon and Einan doesn't really come into play until the end of the film, when all of a sudden now when the dragon gets hurt, Einan gets hurt. When Einan gets hurt, the dragon gets hurt. They feel each other. That wasn't throughout the movie in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, the last 20 minutes, it becomes a major plot point where like Einan's chasing him and the dragon slices his hand and he's like, and he goes down.
Right.
So like that seemed inconsistent.
Well, you get the one moment where the girl almost kills him and Draco feels it.
Well, why let me ask you this question. Why when he gets hit in the arrow in the chest, it doesn't hurt him?
I think it still hurt. It just doesn't kill him.
And so nothing can kill him unless the dragon dies.
Draco has to die.
For him to die.
My thinking is just chop him into little pieces. Like he won't be dead, but he'll be in little pieces. That seems like a fate. Worse. Obviously, it's family friendly, but I was thinking, oh man, you could do some terrible things to this little punk once you capture him.
Yeah. Do you buy the reasoning why that Draco gives half his heart to Einan, to the son?
That he was hoping that. Yeah. No, I think it seemed like more like he was doing a favor to the queen.
Mm-hmm.
Like just, all right, but promise me he's not going to be the dick that he seems like now. Because even in the cave, he doesn't want to do it at first because he knows the kid is bad.
Right.
He says something to the cave to the effect of a cruel king and his cruel son who has the makings of a cruel king or whatever. He says something to that effect.
He says later on in the movie where he's like, I thought my heart could change him.
Right.
But it's like, that's after the fact. And that's an hour later.
Well, maybe he was just hoping that, having a second chance of life would change his opinion. But we're talking about, like you said, a teenager here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, it's not going to change his opinion.
Right.
Teenagers think they're immortal. And now you just made him immortal. You just kind of proved it to him. Not that he knew that he was immortal. He didn't realize that till the arrow.
What about the tone of the movie? I couldn't tell if they were specifically trying to make a comedy at some points or if it was a drama. I felt like the genre or the tone of the film was a little uneven at times.
I would agree with that. I think that there were times like when Draco has Bowen tied to the rope and he's taking him into the sky. I'm like, oh, this is really goofy. He's spitting out the leaves.
Yeah.
I think they're part of me feels like they're trying to go for like a Return of the Jedi kind of feel, like Empire Strikes Back. That kind of Star Wars feel where Star Wars is for everybody, but it's also really for kids. So there's a lot of family, quote unquote, family friendly kind of jokes and action going on. But Star Wars kind of blends that a lot better than this does. Whereas like Draco sacrificing himself at the end and being all sad, and Einan kind of putting himself on top of the girl, like just really seems.
Or he kills his mother.
And he kills his mother, but off screen.
But still.
Yeah. Is kind of inconsistent in the tone of the goofiness. And I mean, Star Wars has some of that too, but I think Star Wars just handles it a little better. It maybe goes a little less goofy than this goes at times. But yeah, I noticed that too, because there are times where I was like, oh, this is way too silly.
Yeah.
But there are other times where the silliness works, like the silliness of Draco catching the dart or the staff and go, oh yeah, I'm dead. Going like, that's kind of funny and works with the tone of the rest of the movie. But then some of the stuff like spitting at the leaves and being too goofy, some of Father Gilbert stuff is just kind of like,
yeah.
I don't need him shooting the arrow in the guy's butt during a scene where people are getting stabbed to death and dying.
Oh yeah, and he's like, "I shall not kill." Yeah.
But you killed him, Gilbert. He might survive because he's immortal, but you murdered him. You did it. I know you're a big fan of the Arthurian legend and Arthur and all that stuff. I am.
This is supposed to take place after King Arthur. So after
the fall of Arthur, yeah.
Right. So this is the king that succeeds Arthur or succeeds.
I guess I don't remember.
Or just a king in a different land.
It says it's like 902 AD. So
984.
984. So we're further from where some people say Arthur was.
So the only connection that is with the Arthurian legend is basically the code, the Knight's Code. That's what we're talking about. The old code.
Clearly Bowen comes from a line of knights that were trying to keep that alive. Mm-hmm. And Draco obviously most likely lived during that time of Arthur.
Yeah. Yep. Sean Connery played Arthur in First Night.
3 thumbs up on IMDb. No. it's a very loose connection, which I'm okay with. I kind of like that kind of like, oh, Arthur is dying out, because you had Arthur and Camelot was the pillar of, righteousness and right from wrong. But obviously medieval times and the Dark Ages happened. So if we're to believe that the Arthurian legend is true, if this movie posits that, then you've got to have that darkness. So
I like you believe that the Arthur legend is true.
I believe there was a guy named Arthur. I believe probably it's something more like the King Arthur Clive Owen movie, where it's the first king of
which we did on the show.
Which we did, which is one of our funnier.
Well, I can't remember what. Oh,
because we do the talk off in the theater, and you go to kill me at the end. But I believe that it's more like that, where it's like one of the first Roman warlords becomes kind of a de facto king of his region, kind of a thing, and he was just a good king, and so legends spawned from that.
Legend of King Arthur.
But yeah, I'm not a huge medieval fantasy guy, but I do love the Legend of Arthur for some reason. It's always resonated with me.
What do you like Rob Cohen as a director?
I guess not.
Oh,
I like DragonHeart, but it does have flaws. I like the first Fast and Furious movie, but I think Tomb of the Emperor's Tomb movie is not great, and a lot of his movies are just kind of like okay. Stealth is not great. I did not like Stealth when it came out.
The Skulls.
Skulls is okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just said.
It's
they're
just
okay.
Okay movies. I'm trying to look through his IMDb now.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot I haven't seen.
Well, the reason I asked is because Kenneth Branagh was going to be the director in the early stages of this film. And then he obviously did it. And then Richard Donner was involved for like 6 months during development. And then he moved on to something else.
I saw Donner was apparently really into it, but when it got delayed, he finally dropped it.
Yeah. I think Donner did. I can't even remember. Donner did Timeline.
So
yeah. So I'm not saying that we're gonna get. I don't know what kind of movie we're gonna get, but I kind of think we would get something a little bit better with what we saw. In my opinion,
I think you'd get something a little more cohesive. I mean, the notes seem to love the novelization.
Oh my God! Then the note, there was like 15 notes about in the novelization this happened. I don't care.
But it almost makes you wonder: was the novelization really more? Because that's usually how the novelizations work. Here's the script. Make a book about this. Usually that means, or sometimes that means that the script was better than or shooting script was not as good as the original script. Like they changed some things for probably the worse.
Yeah,
maybe, and I'm sure that had a lot to do with tone and stuff. Because it seems like the novelization had a lot more grit, some darkness. Like Einan actually had his way with.
Oh yes, he does end up.
The girl's character.
He does end up assaulting her,
Kara. And it they have a whole talk about it before the big battle. So I guess it's a little different. So I think maybe Donner's script would have stuck to that.
Maybe
a little bit,
but then it wouldn't have been a comedy. It wouldn't have been a kid friendly movie.
It would have been darker. Yeah,
it would have been like Timeline or something like something that more skewed, more older.
Yeah, but this movie's already PG-13. So
I think it would have stayed PG-13. I just don't think it would have been like.
But the kid friendlies in the 90s is different than kid friendly today. I mean, it certainly would have been less kid friendly, but not like something like you can't bring your family to. But it just would have been a better movie that maybe would have had a more lasting impression. But if Donner left, or if Donner had done his thing and it was filmed earlier, we would have had Jerry Goldsmith do the score. So we would have had a different score.
Yeah.
And I really like the score we got. Almost more than the movie.
Ooh.
Probably more than the movie. That score is phenomenal.
Here's something I didn't know.
Yes.
There are 4 sequels to this film. Well, 1 sequel, 3 prequels. Did you know that?
One was a sequel? I knew that there were 3
So there's
spin-offs.
There is a sequel called DragonHeart: A New Beginning that came out in 2000 that takes place after the events of the movie.
And that's the one that stars the guy from Malcolm in the Middle.
Does it?
Yeah.
He's the young stable boy named Jeff, and he discovers the last remaining dragon, Drake.
I guess, yeah.
All right. And then the next movie that came out in 2015, which was 15 years later, obviously, it's called DragonHeart 3, The Sorcerer's Curse. That's a prequel sent centuries before the original film. And that is about a knight Gareth who bonds with a dragon named Draco, or maybe it's Draco. That's voiced by Ben Kingsley. And then from there, they had 2 sequels off of that. So there was like a little trilogy there. There's DragonHeart Battle of Heartfire from 2017. And it's Draco again. He's now bonded with royal twins who inherit magical dragon powers, but their rivalry threatens the kingdom. And the voice of Draco is Patrick Stewart in that. And then the next one came out 2020.
Really?
DragonHeart Vengeance. And that takes place before the original, but after Sorcerer's Curse. So I don't know if it's with the other two, but this is about a young farmer seeks revenge for the murder of his family and teams up with a female dragon named Sivith, who's voiced by Helena Bonham Carter. Like, do you feel a need, a compunction to go watch these because you're a big DragonHeart guy now?
Not at all. Now, watching this movie again made me a huge DragonHeart stan. I need all of them. No, I had seen pieces. I think on the Sci-Fi Channel they showed some of the second movie. And I'm good.
Do you think this movie could stand for a reboot or a remake or another movie, another series?
Do you think
people would want this
different? I mean, I can't.
Especially with Game of Thrones, with the dragons of Game of Thrones. I don't even know if you do DragonHeart, you're gonna have to. That's your that people are going to compare you to that.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to. The dragon's got to look good.
Even House of the Dragon, which is out now, which is the newest one. So
I don't know. And people are jaded now. People are going to want that Game of Thrones, which isn't really what DragonHeart is. Like, can you do like we talk about it all the time? Can you do an adventure movie? Adventure movies are dead. I don't want to say it. They're dead. They're dead. They're gone.
What should we call it? What comes out that we just...
The Fountain of Youth.
Is that out yet?
Nah, when this comes out, yes.
All right. So maybe we watched and we love it. We're high on the Fountain of Youth.
I hope so. But
we're not.
Even if we're high on, I mean, we liked the last Indiana Jones, but nobody went to see it.
Yeah, I know.
I could like an adventure movie, but no one else is gonna watch it.
So it's not about whether you like it; it's about whether they're going to be popular.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think DragonHeart would have an uphill battle just in terms of what would it be? What would it do a better blend of family friendly, like lightheartedness and drama, or would it just go straight drama? Would it just go real goofy? Well, if it went real goofy, you might as well just keep doing these direct to DVD movies.
Direct to streamer, yeah. Also, you're older now, so I don't think you'll have the same. You won't have the same connection to a remake or a reboot as you did back in the day.
Probably,
which is, and we've talked about this on the show, which is part of the reason why everyone doesn't like the indie films. One of the reasons is because you grew up with them. We grew up with them, and you're older now. You're jaded about everything, so you're not going to really have that same open awed wonder of those films, which you should. It's too bad, but
I guess
I'm telling you, it's not. Maybe not you, but that's the general consensus. Is like,
stop being so jaded, everybody.
What was I going to ask you? I was going to ask you something. I was going to give you some quotes, some reviews. That's what I was going to do.
Lay him on me.
Your boy Ebert.
Oh boy.
He liked the facial expressions by Draco. He thought they were, quote, astonishingly subtle.
Okay.
He described the movie as swashbuckling adventure with remarkable special effects, and he appreciated the lighthearted joy reminiscent of classic fantasy films. So he does like it.
All right.
He does like it. Jamie Bernard from the New York Daily News said, quote, it's a movie for people young enough to keep dragons in the menageries of their imagination. And she remarked that the dragon is the most believable part of the whole movie.
I don't know. I think Bowen's a good character. I think some of the other ones are one note, like Einan and the and Kara. They're kind of just there. Kara reminded me. I had just watched Ninja Turtles 3 for the Pint podcast, and Kara reminds me of the princess from the ancient Japan in there. Like, it's kind of like the tough medieval chick, like just kind of one note.
Well, this might be one of Dina Meyer's very first.
Oh, I don't think there's a problem with the way she presented it. I just think that it wasn't written with a lot of depth. I like Bowen, though. I think Bowen was kind of...
Which Star Trek was she in? Wasn't she in a Star Trek?
She's in a Star Trek?
Oh, Dina Meyer was in a Star Trek. I know she's in Starship Troopers. I know that. I'm not confusing it with that. Why do I think she was in a Star Trek episode? Wasn't she one of wasn't she in Next Generation? She played somebody they were rescuing her, but then she turned out to be bad.
Sounds.
Am I remembering that wrong?
Star Trek.
Oh no,
why got a lot of credits? Good for her.
What am I thinking of then?
DragonHeart was one of her first roles.
Well, why are you looking that up, James? Berardinelli from Real Views said, quote, even with ILM providing nearly flawless special effects, DragonHeart lacks a much needed spark. It's obvious and plodding and only occasionally impressive.
I mean, he has no magic in his heart. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's not a movie for him. But then again, it is at the same time. I don't know. I guess I agree with him.
You agree with him? You agree with him?
I agree with you. I agree with the people that like it. Yeah, I'm very on the fence with this movie. And it's not just my nostalgia bias. It's that it's like you said, the message is nice. The parts of the film are really good, but it's a film at odds with itself that just needs a little smoothing out.
Oh, yeah, Butler. Dina Meyer appeared as Romulan Commander Denatra.
Star Trek
Nemesis. Yeah, thank you. I knew she was in a Star Trek.
Not a Star Trek episode, but it is Star Trek.
Whatever. I knew it was in Star Trek. I knew.
I know I've seen her with pointy ears.
I knew it. Doubting me.
This was a great movie.
I don't want to push you off the fence. I don't want to have you sit here and make a decision whether you love DragonHeart or not.
But you're going to force me to.
But I want you to know. But I feel like you're wrestling with. You're wrestling with the way DragonHeart made you feel as a young boy, in a positive way. Relax, everyone, and the reality that the movie just isn't that good, and while the score is great, and while the CGI has pushed that technology further, and that's what people remember. Just like, oh, I can't believe how the dragon. I get that. The script and the movie itself is just but you're wrestling with the fact that back then you thought this was great. You loved it. And that's okay. I just think that's what you're wrestling with.
I don't know, because we've had other episodes where I admit that and I can say that. Whereas this one, I still enjoyed my watch. Mm-hmm. But I still were like, it's not great. Like Turtles 3, which I just watched, was just very similar in plot of we have to get this bad king and we have to team up and we have to go assault the castle walls. Mm-hmm. That movie clearly is just like, it's kind of not great, kind of bad, but I have this nostalgia toward it. So I watched it and I enjoyed remembering my childhood having watched it. This movie I still kind of enjoyed. I still watched it. It was lighthearted. It was an adventure. It flowed. It moved. It wasn't like, there was no part in the movie that I was like, oh, wow, can we get going with the movie? So no, I don't think that's what I'm wrestling with. I just think I'm wrestling with the fact that I think I can see a more smoothed out film here. And maybe it's the directing, like you said, or you made me say.
I didn't say that. You said that. Rob, you're cool with me, man.
Fast and Furious is good.
The Fast and the Furious.
Fast and Furious.
Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's that, because usually I can admit that, and I don't know. I'm sure it plays a small part, but I don't think that's entirely.
Well, I don't know. It's coming up from over there. Well, I don't know. I don't know. Listen, you need to make decisions here. This is a film movie discussion. Let's go.
Oh yeah,
I'm joking.
I need a second watch.
That's a legitimate. This is a second watch for me, and I have a more attuned sense of what we're talking about here. I'm sorry, I need to see a potentially great film again. Jeez, yeah, God forbid. Anyways. What I wanted to ask you was also, did you cry when the dragon died as a kid? And did you cry when you watched it last night?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You did?
Yeah. I think it's more the music than anything gets me.
My God. When he puffed into sparkles and he went into the
I actually thought that effect was kind of cool when it's reflecting in his eye.
Looked all right.
I was like, oh, that's a cool effect in the eye. But yeah, I think that's more the music than the actual scene itself.
But I wanted to have a cut scene where they go back and everyone's sitting there, because it just ends and everyone's just like, I want Bowen to be like, now what? Yeah. Now what do we do? The king's dead. He didn't have any heirs. Clearly, he didn't. So what do we do now?
I'm the king.
Yeah,
I got the axe. Anybody got a problem with that?
Yeah.
No? All right.
Like what now? But yeah, so you did cry like a big baby.
Not like a big baby. I had a tear.
Teared up.
But Gilbert also tells you what happened. For a time, there was happiness. So like,
there's always for a time there was happiness.
So Bowen was great, but are you saying Bowen's kid also ended like? Is Bowen not a good dad?
For a time, there was happiness, but I don't want to tell you what happens after that because there might be sequels.
Yeah, for the first 5 years after Simba became king, it was great until Lion King 2.
So you're saying that you would suggest this to any young child that loves adventure film movies.
You have to like adventure films. You can't just that. And I wouldn't have any kind of adult watch it because they're all jaded. Unless you like adventure films. And then it's like, well, if you can watch a kind of lighthearted adventure that's kind of fantasy and you're not just all about Game of Thrones, then watch this. But nowadays everyone's jaded.
Well, Game of Thrones is, I think I've described Game of Thrones to you because you never watched it, right?
Oh, I've watched.
Oh, okay. I've described this.
I was hesitant to watch it at first because like fantasy.
And when it first came out, I was describing it as Lord of the Rings, but like meaner and evil, and like it was rated R, Lord of the Rings almost. That's what I equated it to. And then obviously it changed, and it was a little bit more darker,
right?
But yeah.
I just think people are jaded. I mean,
not kids. Kids don't grow up jaded.
Yeah, but yeah, I think kids would still like it. The effects are a little wonky though. So I don't know how much.
Then you would it?
But you have to show it to them young when they wouldn't care about that. Like they'd be okay with crummy effects.
Well, do you think that because it's 30 years old that it would be probably better to reboot it or to remake it rather than just kind of?
Absolutely. Yeah. If you want to show somebody, like I think if you showed your son now, he'd be like, those effects are corny. But if you showed it to him like maybe 3 years earlier, he might be like more into it. So I think a younger kid doesn't get that kind of. A younger kid has that suspension of disbelief where effects don't matter.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, even as you grow up, you're just kind of like. Oh.
Also, you have to really be not into it, but you have to be okay with medieval times and that kind of. Because it's a different style of adventure. It's not like Indiana Jones, like you say, or National Treasure or anything modern. It's a different period of time, but you really have to like dig that. There's a lot different than kids.
The dialogue is going to end up being different. It has to be.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's what. But I think a lot of people are jaded. I mean, look at Andor. Everyone loves Andor. When we're recording this, it just came out. Andor is just like super like dark. And it's like this is what Star Wars meant to be. That is not what Star Wars meant to be.
Yeah,
Andor's okay. Sometimes it is occasionally good, but that is not what George Lucas originally intended for Star Wars. And if you think that's what he did, then you don't understand what the original Star Wars was supposed to be. An adventure, but just taking place in the future.
Mike Butler has taken this DragonHeart episode to attack Star Wars fans out there.
Well, no, I still like Andor and I'm still a huge Star Wars fan, but I think that jadedness is like, I think Andor kind of like exemplifies that right now.
You prefer the Skeleton Crew because you keep telling me to watch that.
Yeah, because that's more like Goonies and that's more like the original intent of an adventure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, maybe just don't dig it right now. Maybe it'll come back. But right now, I think people are on that. They were on that superhero train. Now they're on that dark kind of jaded version of things train. And maybe it'll cycle back once people are sick of that darkness. They'll come back to the light.
Well, then are you saying it's forgotten because of the jaded factor or it's 30 years old?
It's 30 years old. The effects don't match up. It's the Dennis Quaid is a big actor, but he's not a huge star. Sean Connery has been dead for a while. Unfortunately, he passed away 10 years ago now almost.
He passed away 2020.
5 years.
5 years from when we're recording this.
And he's been retired for way longer than that. So I think just the star power is not there. And it's cheesy. It's
Dennis Quaid's a star.
I didn't say he wasn't a star, but he's not that kind of star where you're like, I gotta hunt down all those Dennis Quaid films.
You'd be surprised the how many he's in that you didn't realize he was in that do well.
Sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think people are seeking this film out, and it's corny. I like the corn, but not everybody likes that corniness, and no one's gonna hunt down a movie that you say is corny. And it's not streaming, which I was surprised about.
I love your defense. It's bad, but I like the bad.
I said it's corny.
I know. No, it's not streaming.
It's not streaming, which I was kind of surprised.
But you can get it. You can rent it.
Yeah, it is rentable.
Yeah.
I know it's $3.99 for this. I would.
Why you rented $3.99 VHS tapes when you were on Friday nights? Why wouldn't you rent it on?
Were they $3.99?
They're $2.99. I mean, for price of inflation, they'd probably be $3.99 now.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're still basic. That model still is there. It's just you're not going to a place to go pick it up. You're doing it online.
I miss going to a place to pick it up.
I hear you. I'm right there with you. I would love that retro feel, but
it's there. I mean, everybody still knows the score. I mean, the score is everywhere. Universal just added it to their arch this year. I think the score is the thing that's going to live on in this movie for a long time.
That's the first thing I said in at the beginning of the discussion.
Yeah, and I think you're 100% right with that.
Anything else? Anything else you think I forgot? Liam Neeson was going to be the part, but they said no.
Stuff we talked about. Dennis Quaid's accent being kind of like he starts at the first scene, he's kind of got it, and then it kind of goes away.
Yeah,
and he just kind of goes gruff. But I actually like that better than trying to do a bad accent.
Yeah, just do your voice.
Yeah, when I was learning when I went to school and we were learning Shakespeare, the thing that was always taught in both the directing classes and the acting classes where it's better to just do your voice doing Shakespeare. Don't try to do a Shakespeare accent because it will always sound more disingenuous than just doing your voice. If you're a British guy acting against an American guy, just do your natural accents because otherwise it will not come across well.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same when you're doing kind of medieval stuff like this. Like I'm glad Game of Thrones used only British actors other than Tyrion, who just had a decent accent. I think that if there were to be an American, especially in a fantasy world, just have him do his voice. It doesn't really, once you get used to it, it doesn't really throw you off that Quaid's doing a regular voice. It's just like, all right, that's the world we're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Where can they find us as I check what we're doing next week?
You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Go ahead and check us out. Like Field said, we have a copious amounts of episodes for your listening pleasure. Go ahead and rate, review, comment, all that kind of stuff really helps the podcast grow. Even the negative ones, it's all engagement, which apparently somebody commented on the last episode of I'm engaging on this post or whatever.
I mean, awesome because they watched the whole thing.
Yeah, that means
and I responded to it.
Yeah, so I thought that was a great comment. Yeah, it really helps the podcast grow. If you want, we have a Patreon. We have other exclusive episodes there. We have our lead up series, which right now we might do a Jurassic Park. We might not. It's a lot of movies. We do our now
Jurassic
showings where we are
World?
going to talk about the newest Jurassic World.
What is it
Superman's
called?
coming out. Rebirth. Superman's coming out. I think around this time we've done them. So check those now showings.
I'm not excited for Superman.
Neither am I, but I hope it's good. I'm a big Superman fan. Yeah, but we've got a bunch of now showings from the past as well. Check those out. We've done a ton of those. We've done the lead up series. Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff. Check us out.
And now I'm excited because next week we're doing a movie that I absolutely love, Munich from 2005. Great film. Great film.
I am going to have to hate this film to balance.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
if
kidding.
you hate this film,
I don't hate this film. I already know
this movie is awesome. And we don't talk about it enough.
Well, we're about to talk about it next week. So
I think that one of the reasons why a lot of movies like in the mid 2000s we don't talk about is because not that we're so far removed, but it's not far enough back to, remember then? And we're not far enough ahead to be like, I watched that. That just came out. Yeah. So I think a lot of those movies like that, it's weird. And obviously that it changes, it shifts as you get older, but so I'm really excited to talk about the movie. I really love that movie.
Talk about Munich. It's like, that came out 5 years ago. No.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking, 20 years ago. My goodness. 20 years ago.
I still remember watching the trailer for that movie in the theater.
That movie's so good. All right. So that's next week. We're doing Munich. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And everything Mike said, I agree with. Good job. I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema.
Bam, 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 bam.
Oh boy.